Susan, I'm gonna throw it to you to open the meeting.
Okay, I can't remember, is there anything official I need to say? Or just welcome everyone and thanks to I think we have some special guests tonight.
Yeah, maybe a good thing, Susan, to go around the table.
Yeah, let's do that. Love to hear who's here.
Want to start? Larry Potter.
Leah Thomas.
Dan Del Priore with the town.
Derek Jordan, Vice President of Victor Community Softball.
Julie LaRue, I'm chairperson of the Recreation Advisory Committee.
Adrian Bellis, Planning Board of Farmington.
Steve Holtz, Town Board of Farmington.
Amanda McDonald, I'm in here for Victor Community Baseball and Softball.
Jody Lee, I'm the president of Victor Community Softball.
Sarah Weidenborner.
And Matt Souza with MRB Group.
How about Charles? I'm the president of Victor Softball.
And Ron Brand, the Director of Planning and Development. And we have one guest in the audience back there.
Pete Inglesby, Town Supervisor.
Oh, let's say Pete, there's an empty chair.
You don't get a chair.
I'm waiting to see if somebody else from the committee was going to get everybody.
Right, and Susan, it's just next thing on the agenda is just approval of the minutes from September 9th, 2024.
I'll move. I make a motion to accept the minutes. Somebody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're good.
Right?
You're doing good, Susan.
She's muted at the moment, so I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Susan, can you hear us or?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you needed me to say something.
No, it's okay. I mean, I don't mind driving from here because you're remote.
Thank
And
you.
it might be a little more difficult.
Mm.
So item 3 on our agenda is privilege of the floor. We do have some guests here today from Victor Community Softball. My understanding is they'd like to discuss I don't know, softball programming, facilities. They reached out to Supervisor Inglesby in that regard, and he thought and I think rightfully that the town isn't going to make any material decisions while this process is ongoing. And since we are at this meeting really discussing and diving into implementation strategies, goals, and objectives of this plan, it would be a good opportunity to listen to some residents and community members about what they'd potentially like to see go into the plan as far as recommendations and goals specifically for softball facilities. So I will turn it over to you, and I might think you have a
We do have to hit share at the bottom.
share.
If I just get up, this is not a weapon. Yeah, and then.
And then this
there.
bad boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is a quick presentation. We just thought it'd be the best way to get some of our challenges across to all of you. And introduce ourselves. The last time I think this was done was back in 2016, so a lot has changed since then. Again, my name is Derek Jordan. I'm the Vice President of Community Softball. We are representing today not just softball, but baseball as well. So like I said, thank you again for having us here. We see this as an opportunity for us to talk to you a little bit about the challenges we face as an organization. Thanks, man. So more about us, we're a volunteer run program. Jody and I and Amanda, we don't get paid a lot of money. Bob might, I'm not sure. So we're volunteers, we're a not-for-profit organization. Underneath the VCBS umbrella, there's 4 main entities. It's softball, community baseball, and then we have a travel baseball and a travel softball program. Our leadership, and I became vice president halfway through last year, so this is all kind of new to me, but before that, and even meeting with the baseball folks, like the leadership here is very passionate about creating the best product that we can for our players. And I'm going to bring that up quite a bit. When we say best product, we mean something that kids play. They have an awesome time doing it. They tell their friends at school, this is the best sport you can play. The facilities are great. I've made a lot of friends. I know my daughters have played for 2 years. Most of their friends right now are softball players they played with. A lot of my adult friends now have become softball players or softball parents. So very passionate group. Right now, we represent about 800 athletes. That number, right, let's see how this works. Right there is a little low because that really just encompasses our spring organizations and our travel teams. It doesn't take into account summer sandlots, fall ball that we do. So that number is actually pretty conservative on the low side. It could be a little bit higher. So we put together this chart here just to show our growth. That was one of the main objectives of meeting with you, is to show that our organization is growing over time. We did look at the previous master plan back in 2000, let's see if this works, right there, 2016 numbers. So there's a pretty good gap here. But in 2016, there was 650 members or players in our organization. 2024, we had just over 800. We project a growth of about 7% for next year. So we'll be at about 850 players. A couple of interesting things here. 2016 to 2022, there was obviously something that happened in between there. So we actually, COVID had a couple of years where we didn't have any participants, we didn't play. This line up top is the total of these, all of our different 4 organizations. Over here, we have a breakout of the, how much percentage wise baseball is in our organization. We represent 51% of our players, travel baseball 10%. Travel softball, which Bob is the president of, that's 19%. And then our softball organization is 20%. So between 2022, 2023, you can't really see my years down here. We had a 10% growth. Between 2023, 2024, we had 7%. So that's kind of what we're projecting again for next year, about 7% growth. So we wanted to show you what is pretty much our primary field use, and that's the campus at the Central School District. And go over each of the fields that we currently use. One of the things we really wanted to point out is these fields. Field 25, field 27 no longer exist. Those were back in the 2017, 2022 master plan. So when you're looking at field space, it's a big deal for us when one field goes away, but 2 fields is an even bigger deal. Baseball utilizes these 2 fields for their developmental programs. They're almost, if they didn't have backstops, you'd have a hard time telling that their baseball fields are in pretty rough shape. Baseball also uses 22, 20, and 23. That's their primary fields. Fields 24 and 28 over here are skin softball fields that both baseball and softball use. And then softball uses fields 19, 21, and 24. And what's interesting with softball is that we share all of our fields as an organization. We don't have one field that we don't share, and we usually get the second option to use it. It's typically how it works. So field 19 is our varsity field team for softball. 21 is the JV field, and then 24 and 28 that we also share with baseball are also the modified program school team fields. One thing this year is we introduced a younger division for softball. It was 6U, 6 and under kids. So little girls. They didn't have a chance to play on a softball field all year. They played on our varsity football field, turf field, Corbett Field. So those players were only allowed to play 1 day a week, and that was on Saturday mornings, and they never set foot on a softball field all season. As the vice president, new vice president, I guess, that frustrates me. I'm hoping that's something that we can change, because like I said before, we want to provide a quality product for our players. Yeah, you good? All right, so get over here now. So this is, we're looking beyond the school campus here at what the towns that surround us and that are comprised of our players, what we can use and what we have potential to use. Interestingly enough, the town of Victor has 0 fields. They don't have any baseball or softball fields at any of their parks. So a lot of times when we talk of baseball and softball and amongst ourselves, we look at Farmington as like our potential for having more space. Right now, town of Farmington has 4 baseball fields and 3 softball fields. We're sitting here at the. We're obviously sitting here, and we have 3 softball fields behind us. Beaver Creek has 1 baseball field. Grove Park has 2 baseball fields. And Hortensia has 1 baseball field. The other parks here, I think Meeting House is a really small property, but the other parks, Pumpkin Hook used to have a field, but that got taken out. So we wanted to call out some of the things that we saw as highlights in that 2017-2022 master plan that kind of impact our organization. The first one being that there was a comment in there about although the school needs are essentially met with existing fields, community demand for existing fields exceeds capacity. So that was 100% correct in 2016, and it's 135% correct now. So it's, we have a lot of challenges trying to get our players on fields. It advertised at 5% growth each year. I think I demonstrated, I think it's a little higher than that. I think we're about 7% growth each year. It could be more, it could be a little less, but we think we're probably higher than that. At the time of that plan, there was 8 baseball fields, softball fields, and 5 town parks. Now there's 7 because Pumpkin Hook was taken away. And then this last one's a really important one that we agree with as well, kind of like the first bulleted item. 1 additional baseball, softball field is needed immediately, and 2 for longer term. To aid in practice, to aid in providing close by practice and games for the town youth population. So again, 100% right in 2016, and right now we really need it. So these are just some of the recommendations. I don't know if majority of these were done or not, but at Pumpkin Hook, it was to remove the baseball field. We do think that that was done. I don't think there's a baseball field out there anymore. At the town park, it was to install field mix in the existing fields. We think that was done because if you look at aerial photography, those were baseball fields. Now they're all skin softball fields. Install electric and water lines to the field closest to the tower. That's this way. Hortensia was to add irrigation to that baseball field. Grove Park was to rehabilitate existing baseball fields out there. Farm Brook was to remove an existing baseball field. Now, I think that comment maybe was in there by mistake because I don't ever remember seeing a field there. I looked at aerial photography. I couldn't see when there was a field there. Was there one? Okay.
A long time ago.
So that field's not there now, though, to the best of my knowledge. And then Beaver Creek was to add 1 baseball or softball field. So this is the vision as a group that we have that we understand is kind of shooting for the moon a little bit. But this facility that we're standing on here has potential to be more of a complex than just having 3 fields out back. We think that you could easily take these 3 fields, keep 1 in place, turn things around, and have 7 fields out here. If you look at the topography of this park, this land is relatively flat, almost exactly around where these outfields would be. So grading is a big cost prohibitive for putting in fields, and we don't think that would be an issue. Obviously, there is some tree clearing. But this also has space down here for potential concession stand area, additional parking. A major thing too is equipment storage, having a facility to store equipment. I'll touch on that, I think, in the next slide a little bit. So my experience as a dad with my daughters playing in tournaments, one of the places we went last year was Webster Ridge Road tournament, and they have a facility like this. They have 9 fields. But it was like, I remember walking around there going, holy cow, we need this in Farmington, we need this in Victor. So we got to have something like this for our kids, because it was super cool. I had down here a community camaraderie bullet, and it's hard to describe that, but when I was out there experiencing that, there's gotta be 500-800 parents all watching their kids play. It was a super cool vibe of that complex. Consistency, when you've got one park that has all the fields, parents know that they're going to that one park. They don't have to try to figure out which one they're going to today. And then a big thing here is maintenance. I think that you lose a lot of fields when you spread them across different park areas. So if you've got a field down at Farm Grove and you've got one here, and then maybe there's one in Victor, you've got to maintain all those regularly, or else they go to crap. They turn into concrete. They're not playable. They're not good fields. If you've got all your fields in one facility and you've got all the equipment that you need, it's a breeze to take care of these fields. Especially if you have something like a tractor, you can just drag them. It's like an 1.5-hour job versus, I don't even know how you tackle when you've got fields on different properties. If you buy all that equipment, you can't have them at each spot, or you travel around with it. But I think there's a lot of benefits to having a complex type facility versus having fields spread across different parks. So to conclude this, and I'm going to talk as the vice president of softball, parent of kids who play softball, and as a coach from last year. Especially for this bullet, it was a frustrating season. We had a lot of practices. It was almost comical, the number of practices that we had. They had to get rescheduled or canceled. When you have families like ours, I heard everybody talking about their kids doing multiple sports. When one of your kids' practice gets changed around, it affects your whole family. The stress level is there already, but when you got to change things around, it gets challenging. So we had a lot of that. That's what the product that we want to provide for our kids. We had pretty short practice times too. The one thing I didn't mention on the campus is that for softball, we can't use the fields until after 5:30 because the school uses them until then. So we have 5:30 until dark. So it limits right there the number of practices that we could have. We could be out there at 4 o'clock, which if we were at a town park practicing, we could do that. It would increase the length of our play. It would give us longer practices and more practices. This year, my experience too, as a coach, we had a few practices up here. When we showed up, I think I had 3. First one I had was early spring and the field was in really rough shape, but we still practiced. But my kids didn't slide. Ground balls were one of the deals where it's coming at you and you just don't know what bounce it might take. The fields are really hard out there. They're not very flat. The second practice I had, there was a baseball team that got kicked off of their field from an out of town travel team that was practicing. They had double booked it. And they'd come over and ask me if I would practice next to the field. I said yes, because I had about 4 players because our practice just got moved. So instead of having my full 12 kids, it was about 6 kids that showed up. So, and I think the third practice is the same deal. We got moved out of our field. So that's not, I think of myself, like I try to put myself in the shoes of parents who are watching their kids play and they're going through that. Could be something where next year, if they've got experience playing other sports, they choose that over us because of our challenges getting field space and schedules. I skipped over this top bullet, which is probably the most important thing that we want to portray for this group, and that's that our number of athletes is always growing. It's been growing ever since 2016, and our field space has been going down. We have less fields to play with when we did that. So that's a big deal. So we have, as an organization, we have, obviously, I think I've demonstrated this, but we have an immediate need for fields right now for next year. And then we want to have the vision of 5 to 10 years from now, having enough fields for those players. And that won't be the same leadership that you see now here, but we want to make sure that when they step in, they've got field space for their players. And then final deal here is we're going to be putting in fields or renovating fields. We just think that there's got to be a lot of thought that goes into how these fields are maintained, who's responsible for it, where things get stored. That's a big deal because these fields out behind us here, they could be really nice fields. We've met with people who renovate fields, and they've gone out there and looked at it. They looked at the clay, they researched where the clay got bought from, and it's the right material. It's just hard as concrete because it doesn't get turned over, it doesn't get raked on any kind of regular basis. So it's kind of almost a waste to have nice fields that just don't get maintained to the point where they're almost unplayable. Slide. It's the end, got a bunch of key players up there.
The one thing that I do want to add that we got information of like right before this meeting started was, you know, one of the questions that I've always had was why it's called VCBS. So VCBS stands for obviously Victor Community Softball Baseball. I had reached out to some contacts and got the percentage of Victor residents versus Farmington residents. And it's a 54 to 44 break with some alternate, 2%. So one of the things that I was going to bring up to our next board meeting is potentially the option to change the name of it. I mean, it's not Victor Community Baseball Softball, it's Victor Farmington Community Baseball Softball. I don't think anybody would have an issue with us changing the name of it. I have to figure out with our, not-for-profit, if I'm allowed to do that and what I need to do. But I think that would be huge for the community to have both names in the title, especially knowing just how increasingly our numbers are growing with both Victor and Farmington kids.
So Zach Fuller just walked in, he's the vice president of our.
All right, Wade.
Yeah.
I'm jumping over.
Is there anything else you wanted to? Bob, anything else you want to bring up?
Just want to touch on the rescheduling aspect in case it wasn't clear. So the rec season and the school season basically perfectly overlap. And so us having second priority at the school, when they get a rain out, they reschedule their games. And then we would have practices or things scheduled that evening time. So their games all start at 5 o'clock. So that our practices then in those evenings have to get bumped when they reschedule. And with the number of rainouts that they have in any given season, it's a lot of games that wind up getting rescheduled. A lot of practice, a lot of events, and that's why Derek pointed out those challenges with sharing with the school.
What feedback have you received from Victor regarding their lack of fields, like the town of Victor? Like in parks, have they talked about or offered anything as far as future plans to add fields?
So I did have a note in there because we reviewed their master plan too for their Parks and Rec, and they have one proposed field at Dry Road Park, like out, where the bike trails are. I've never gone past like the hill where kids sled and stuff, but it's like out back there, there's an open area. That's the only, in their master plan, that's the only field that they proposed, and that's a baseball field.
I think Victor just doesn't have the space.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think
Yeah.
Victor just doesn't have the space or the land to do that. The majority of their fields are lacrosse fields, if I'm correct,
Yeah.
and soccer fields.
They do have a big parcel of land off of Brace Road.
Our understanding is that they're gonna
They're trying
perhaps
to
use
sell
that,
it.
perhaps use that for like a highway superintendent. I think is our understanding. I don't know if that's correct.
I've also heard like indoor recreational facility.
Well, they've talked about putting them.
I think it's
Some type of
marshland too.
recreation.
There's probably a lot of wetlands.
Have you met with them though to discuss this?
I can speak on that. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm waiting again. From Zach Fuller, I'm here to represent the baseball side of this. We met with town and village of Victor quite a bit. I think there was a 2018 or 2019 master plan for the town. What's called for expansion of baseball fields at certain parks. A lot of that stuff got eaten up by COVID. A lot of those plans for the master plan changed. They're very aware of what happened, but as of right now, there's no plan to currently add a lot of fields to their space. Their biggest issue is they don't have the space to add a baseball field. They talked about purchasing land and expanding on their town-owned land. But I mean, similar to Farmington, I think it's just, I don't think anybody saw this crazy population growth the last 15 years. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like, it's unbelievable the amount of people that have moved out here because I love it here. I think it's great. I don't know how many people know about the history of like Victor Little League baseball, like how the field came about. But in 1995, town or city school district of Victor was awarded a grant from the state to build baseball field, which are the Clovers and the 24-28 that are 23-24. It was on a 20-year bond. And Victor Woodawee technically owned that property until 2015. In 2015, when the bond expired, the property turned over to the Victor School District. And then it became the school property. And we kind of went from first priority to second fill. It, you know, I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of things happening, a lot of, you know, people probably didn't know, like, we kind of learned about it as we went. So I don't think there was ever a vision needed because we're always like, we got the fields at the school, we can expand on that, but now school enrollment through the roof. I mean, like, there's $96 million proposal going through right now with, you know, I mean, how many new programs were there? They're taking out fields to build parking.
I did meet with the director of athletics and it's not in, I couldn't get it into the capital project for this year, for them to do anything field wise.
Yeah, the likelihood of us getting more fields at the campus is low.
Yeah, they keep excited that, you know, there's a big parking issue. And there's also the potential that, you know, 19 being the varsity field, just like a baseball field, that it's not gonna be allowed to let anybody else play on it. Because they wanna keep it for the varsity and make sure that the upkeep is the way that it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're fighting a lot of uphill battles here. I mean, we look at other towns, like you go to Webster, you go to Fairport, you go to Penfield. You know, even Greece, they put in brand new turf fields out there. I mean, a lot of towns have really invested in it. I think Victor would be willing to invest in it. I'm hoping Farmington would be too. And I think it's a great community service. I mean, we got well over 800 kids per season that play in this and, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up playing baseball. I mean, I remember when I was 9 years old, we won the Scanlon Cup in Leroy, and you know, one of my, you know, core memories from inside out, right? And, but you know, I think the plan here to really kind of hit this on two tracks. I mean, we're gonna keep pushing with Town of Victor, and we're gonna stay in their, you know, in their mindset for their future plans, and we're gonna hit the Town of Farmington up with the same plan, right? I mean. I don't think you can have enough baseball fields these days. I mean, it's a growing sport. I think what parents are putting their kids in contact sports. I mean, the concussions, everything else. I mean, we're growing. I mean, and the numbers showing, and not only is our town growing, our program's growing. And we did a great baseball program at the high school level. I mean, and softball too, I'm sorry. But, you know, I mean, we're very competitive. We're in the, you know, sectionals every year. We're competing, and it starts here. It starts with these conversations, the introduction of these kids to the game lead to, you know, lifelong experiences for them. And, you know, I know that's the first half, but sure, it's like, you know, we need a short-term and long-term plan here. And like, you know, I'm really hoping to, you know, work with you guys and, you know, kind of come up with some solutions.
Now, Jack Marin was the first president, right?
What's that?
Jack Marin was the first president of Victor
Yeah.
Little League?
Yep.
Yeah,
He helped
that's back in the
facilitate that
90s.
20-year contract, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, he's the one that kind of told us the background of the Woodawee Fields and stuff, and he's very supportive of baseball, but it's kind of the same thing, like a lot of their green space is already reserved for certain uses. So they want to expand their town parks. It's just, I mean, they're landlocked to every direction pretty much, and that's my 2 cents.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions?
I guess, I mean, some of you also reached out to Pinnacle Sports for a conversation. Did that happen?
I'm still trying.
Okay.
I've had 5 so far, and at least the last 2 have been with the owner. The first were just with the general manager, so I'm working on potentially getting their two fields outside in usable condition because they built them in right before COVID and never used them. But they're all sand, so they have $10,000 worth of work per field that they need to get them up and running. We had another meeting again this afternoon that we think went really well, but we don't have a yes or no yet.
Okay.
And to be honest, a lot of other like soccer, lacrosse, all the other sports have all left Pinnacle because they have not had a good working relationship. I mean, people are driving to Henrietta now for all the other sports.
Yes. Right,
Um,
Friday nights I've been
We've,
riding for
we've had
soccer.
a lot of people tell
Yeah, we
us.
did-
yeah.
to lock
We did
themselves.
Castle there this winter for soccer and it was an adventure.
Yeah, they want everybody to be a member, even to play outside. Things
We're
like that.
working on the plan.
Well,
I
as
know,
far as
yeah.
parents to like line
Wash
your
your
head.
hands.
I'm trying to work on the rates.
Grandparents.
Yeah, you guys are all aware of the
Yes,
issues. with
yeah.
Pinnacle.
I do hear they're for sale because they're about to lose a big tax. Are we coming up on 10 years? That's what I hear, the rumor.
Well, let's buy them. Victor and Farmington.
Just to let everybody know, I know Victor Little League 4 or 5 years ago was looking at the Grove Park. So we just spent a lot of money there this year expanding the parking, because that was the main reason you couldn't get in there. There was no parking, so drive over, take a look. We have parking, got a couple of EV charging stations there now, lights, camera security system. And in your budget for next year is a backstop. And the field closest to the playground. The other one is a little low and a little wet, so that would need some work. The other field, I think very few dollars could be brought back up and be used.
And as a community, or like as an organization, we've talked about, we are comfortable helping with fundraising for such projects. Wondered, Matt, if you knew when the grant season is for this, isn't it the fall?
I mean, if it's depends on the grant, but
Yeah,
it could be
like a
fall, or if
parks
it's a
and-
CFA, it would be mid, depending on what funding sources. That was one of my questions, if you had an idea of just high level generic cost and then potential funding options. So that's always helpful for,
They do, yeah, so
planning
the
process.
gentleman that I brought out from Buffalo was the one, I mean, he maintains fields all over between here in Buffalo, college fields. He came and looked at the fields when I met him over at Pinnacle to look at their fields, and he did put together a number for potentially like the plan that we had showed you, what it would cost, as well as just revamping what we have right now. And I don't remember the,
3.3 million,
no, the revamping of right now,
just getting those.
right?
Playable.
Yeah, it was about 220 per field to do the 7. The 7 plan that we had showed. But that excluded, he wasn't sure, obviously, about grading, the additional ones that we had that were near the woods. And then, do you remember what the recent one, to revamp the 3?
I didn't see that. No.
He just sent it right
It's probably
before.
similar to what Pinnacle's cost would be,
Yes.
but the backstops here too could use some attention. It might be more.
Yeah, it's 78-80. 3 field, infield touch up, remove weeds and edging and backstop area. Fill and tamp, low areas on mound and plate, level all bases and anchors, cut clean infield edges. Add Washington ball mix and need of spread across fields. That's with the clay, that's approximately 10 tons of field. Labor and equipment 78-80.
You guys remember when there used to be a baseball field at the racetrack by the parking lot, and there were soccer games played there?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? That's
The soccer just ended like COVID or something.
yeah, I
Or
feel like we were
baseball.
playing soccer. I remember that baseball backstop. It was by the where that second entrance, that road.
In the east end.
So that some people may not know about that if you haven't lived here for over 20 years, but they used to be fields in that grassy area that goes close to 96, the racetrack. I don't know why, soccer, I don't know if the racetrack,
So I think.
Put it into it.
Casino went
and I think maybe they had plans, maybe wanting to build a
in.
hotel.
Yeah.
Probably liability.
Parking.
wanted to gamble could get there.
It is plenty of parking.
I mean, we could cut a money line every game for what do we if you want. But I think the other important thing too is to make sure that we have a solid plan with you and field maintenance and stuff. I don't think we're, well, like, I don't think we're gonna shy away from any maintenance costs and stuff, but we're. You know, I think the biggest thing here is like, a lot of the sheds don't have good rakes, like, I mean, they're little garden rakes that. Can't rake the field with a lot of times, like there's no draggers, stuff like that. Stuff like this that I think if we can invest in, put the material down. I think we'd be willing to help you out, work out. I mean, we do a field day every year with baseball. We try to pick up the field, we, you know, I mean, grab a, you know, dump truck of dirt and spread the dirt out and keep it up and. It's all stuff I think would be great if we just continue to talk and, you know, I mean, it's, you got good fields that just, you would welcome.
Just one more thing. I spoke with Peter, Pete, about, the grant that you guys did for Beaver Creek and how you had some neighbors disdaining, saying they don't want that. I said, I don't think that would be an issue here because there's not really surrounding community, like backing up to the land. So I think you would have a much better success rate at getting that type of grant, for this facility. There wouldn't be a lot of town pushback, I can imagine, like you would if it was somebody's backyard. Although I live in Beaver Creek and I love it.
I do, so.
Oh, okay.
Like,
It only takes one though.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe that one.
Isn't it?
right, but around here, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you would have, you know, just with that, have a much higher success rate, being successful with that grant.
Great.
Just one
Yeah,
question.
please.
What do we tell the other sports that use our fields? If we do a campus all for softball and baseball?
But I think, I mean, I think that's a fair question. But maybe if we name all the other fields, like, and compare, there's how many soccer fields, there's how many tennis courts, there's how many lacrosse fields. And just give facts without bias. I think that you would find,
I think that Farmington does a pretty good job of trying to accommodate all sports. So just my personal opinion, I mean, you see the map in front of you, it does show additional baseball fields going in, but it also shows multiple use fields going in for our soccer and our lacrosse, and I know that these fields are used a lot here. The other big concern I would have about changing this campus is we use it for parking for
Zach.
July 3rd, so.
And just to more appropriately introduce that map, because this is.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I
Yeah,
just
this is
wanna,
our first time.
I just wanna provide, this is the first time everybody at this table just about to see this, so. Essentially what that is the parcel of land that you identified in your presentation, just adjacent to the town hall here. Is vacant land owned by the town. It's not slated for parkland, doesn't mean it's gonna be made for parkland, it's one of the ideas that is being thrown around, it's. Most likely, I don't wanna speak on behalf of the committee before the draft plan comes out. But most likely will be incorporated into this plan as a recommendation to create a feasibility study around that land. As potential parkland. But for the purposes of discussion tonight with the committee, we took the liberty to just very basically and preliminarily mock up. Like a could-be scenario for that parcel of land. To Dan's point, yeah, I mean, we kind of foresaw it as certainly softball fields, baseball fields, but also multi-use fields, potentially a dog park, because there's a whole slew of. I mean, everybody wants something
Yeah.
in terms of a facility on these parklands, so to Dan's point, like, I think ultimately any park development facility improvements is gonna be all encompassing and try to. Get the biggest bang for your buck and satisfy the most amount of people as possible. My one question was, I know you mocked up like 7 fields, do you have a ballpark number? Not obviously can't hold you to it, but like, how many fields would kind of meet current and like short-term growth demands? Is that like 7? Is that like you need 7 or?
For the entire program or just like?
Yeah, for the entire program.
So like right now, I can tell you that Saturday morning, we got we use about 10 fields at a time, 9 fields. If they wanna have like a softball tournament or something, they need anywhere between 2 or 4 The other problem too is, it's probably more of a baseball issue than softball, is, our base patterns are different.
Right.
So, you got a 46-60 and, you got different size fields. So like, we kind of, our design right now is like, field 20 is bigger than field 22, which is same size 23, but it's smaller than 16 and 17. So it's like, for that, but, to me, if you skin them, they can be multiple use, you put multiple pegs in. You say, but the big thing for baseball is baseball mound,
Right.
that softball doesn't use.
Yeah.
So that's always a big problem for us, but, Beaver Creek has a mound, which is great, and, kind of like to keep up on the maintenance there, and, I think, our worry too is like eventually they're gonna skin all the fields in the over at Victor's Pool. And then what it would be with no baseball fields, with a mound. It's better to talk about portable mounds, there's options, but.
Yeah, I feel like softball side of things, short-term 2 fields would satisfy our needs. I think that would allow our younger group to play and
Play on the
practice.
next field.
And I can only
Right.
imagine that you guys are at that or above that.
Yeah, we had 400 and change kids play last year. I mean, we had 39 baseball teams and we're expecting about 40 to 42 next year. And, problem is like in the spring, we're running pretty much 8:30 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon every day. Or on Saturday, and then every night we're double booking the fields, 5:30 to 7:30 on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday during the week.
I would say that a clover like you have here with 4 fields, that sure wouldn't hurt. I mean, that would be,
Right.
it would be a huge benefit to us, and we would have to figure out what percentage of that is a softball field versus
Right.
baseball.
And again, super preliminary, obviously, but I think ultimately the recommendation would be a feasibility study.
I think something like this would work, and we could even use like in softball too, like our developmental age kids. You could throw 4 bases down on a multi-use field.
Yeah.
They don't hit the ball far. Maybe it's softball, girls do, but. The little boys, like, I mean, we could have followed the third base we celebrate that as a home run.
So to get back to your question though, I think if we had more of a complex where all the fields are at one spot, that would open up some of, not that I want to say to get rid of other fields, but some of your other parks that do have fields, maybe those are the fields that you make your lacrosse park or your soccer park. Where this one suits up well to be a softball, baseball park.
I think the other thing that's important is, we feel like we bring a sense of community to our baseball softball league. I mean, you get up Saturday morning, you go to the Clovers, the snack shack's there, you see all your friends and family. You're playing on one field, your buddy playing on another field, but when you get, 5 games in 5 different locations, 5 miles apart. You kind of don't get to see everyone, you don't get the same camaraderie and. Like I think something like this, you throw a snack shack in here, you make some serious coin on the weekend. Throw an ice cream truck out there on a Saturday, my kids won't like go do $40.
Webster had their concession stand sold tacos, barbecue,
Yeah.
variety.
It's like a full.
It was unbelievable. They had to have made, and the line was always like 15 people long waiting in that line.
And we offer volunteers to run that stuff too. We have with 400 and change kids that play through the baseball program and there's 400 potential volunteers we look at, actually 800, but.
I don't see it being, realistic to take out like the fields at field at Beaver Creek. That's a newly developed field that we, invest a lot of time and money into. And same thing with that baseball field at Mertensia. That's the field we invested a lot into. I just don't see us realistically redoing or revamping fields, to add more in one concentrated location. Like if you notice, like our parks, this one has 4 and then, adding 2 multi-use and kind of that's how all our parks are like. So, I mean, that's my personal opinion. I just don't see that being like economically.
Are they taking the field out at Beaver Creek?
No, what I'm saying is like to revamp fields, that was the suggestion brought up, like having a concentrated area, having all your baseball fields at one place.
Yeah.
And reusing and changing and putting like all the cross fields at Beaver Creek. I just don't see that as a,
Oh, no,
I
we
think
didn't,
you need all the fields everywhere
yes,
and some.
yes.
Yeah.
I think that's what.
Yeah, I don't think we
Yeah,
can have
enough to
enough
get rid
field.
of. correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I would love to build I think there's enough, want to put a second field out of Peter Creek and the green space across the road.
yeah, right on the other side of the parking lot. It's huge that we,
I mean,
they
it's a
talked about putting,
Huge green space there. We use
putting
it
a
for
couple
practice
soccer
a
fields
lot.
there.
Multi-use field.
Right, yeah, and they talked about it. We, nothing's happened. We weren't sure what.
So Beaver Creek has a multi-use baseball
Oh,
slash
is it?
softball field.
Just
And then-
baseball, I think. I don't
No,
think
it,
softball-
I think we designed it to be both. Right? I thought we did.
It got a mound, so I don't think,
Yeah.
right,
They
softball
can't
can't
use
use
a
a
softball
mound.
can't. Yeah.
doesn't use them out.
No,
No,
okay.
and
I
a
thought-
softball field is skinned, so there's no infield, it's all.
Yeah.
dirt.
So,
Yeah, the two soccer lacrosse fields out there are being used this fall. Started a couple months ago, but they're Wednesday and Saturdays, lacrosse is using those.
Oh, nice.
The nice thing too about baseball fields is the infield is not that big, you put it in the corner. The outfield is all green space that can still be used for soccer and lacrosse when, just book the whole field versus like the thing. Like in the morning, it could be baseball, in the afternoon, you can play soccer in the outfield.
Yeah, the design that we had was having them reversed so that all of the,
Yeah, that they back up to one.
right, so then you have that whole outfield to do anything that you want with. I mean,
Mixed
having,
use.
right, having soccer on is fantastic. They can aerate the grass. That's the same thing with pumpkin hooks. I'm surprised that they took that out because where the backstop is. And the outfield is basically where they're playing soccer right now. So I'm very surprised that got taken out for soccer because it could still be used for soccer when I'm there, multiple times a week. And there's a huge open area right there that is not even being used when soccer is being played with the little ones.
most likely it's due to lack of being used over the years.
There was
No
also-
one used it.
There was also a lot of conflicts with baseball and soccer, people walking across the field during baseball games.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying
Yeah.
having them at the same time, it's just like you could still have. Soccer only goes for a couple hours on Sunday mornings, you could have, something after that, no, definitely not at the same time.
What I was saying is the field probably would have maintained if it was being used. And most likely it just wasn't being utilized. So,
Yeah, I'm,
I think we played the entire COVID season out
These
there.
fields weren't getting used. This was years back.
It was kind of after Farmington, the league went away.
Right.
So,
I just think people didn't want to drive that far. It was too far.
Mhm. Well, and at the time, things were centralized at the school and it was central for everyone. So everything shifted that way.
Well, I appreciate the time of discussion. In the interest of time,
One quick.
go for it. Last comment.
Last comment, and it's just, you guys say you can only play the dark. What if we put lights on the field?
That would be like heaven on earth.
I don't know, we've never done that.
yeah, that,
What if we put lights?
I mean, I would love to play under the lights. I mean, that was called watch hours.
baseball night, softball, that's not.
I know football brings in the portable light for practice during the winter or fall.
If it would help, then we didn't have to build as many baseball fields, by just lighting a field. So I was just trying to think of. It helps in certain times of the year, right? Cause in June, it's still light until 9:30.
Correct.
July, it's still about 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock.
This time
So
of year.
fall, this time of year it helps, but it doesn't help a ton in late May into June.
Like May, June, our biggest issue is probably, we get into Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. We got 40 teams plus another 10 to 14 softball teams. You got 54 teams trying to play 2-3 hours of practice. It's not so much, gonna add another hour, it's just,
I just want to throw out there if that was maybe an option. It'd be great to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely would use that later for sure.
And
I mean,
Mertensia, you can put lights there too. At Beaver Creek, I don't think you could, but Mertensia.
No, thank you.
The easiest one would probably be.
Here, for sure, and then we're kind of, yeah.
I already got one complaint because the lady said the lacrosse people woke her up at 8 o'clock in the morning with blowing whistles.
Oh,
To sleep to 8 a.m.
yeah, right.
Exactly.
I think she had insulation she's got.
I just wanted to share that with Peter. I just couldn't.
Open from dawn to
Who's
dusk.
was on neighborhood pages? Who's on?
Okay, so that's a-
New signage.
Which is new signage too.
It changed the town code, but you know.
That sounds easy.
Well,
Dan brought that up.
I apologize. Phenomenal discussion. I sincerely wish we could stay here all night and really talk about it, but we have an agenda and I guess the Yankees are playing, I suppose. So, but I do appreciate you guys coming, showing the interest. It warms my heart as a planner to see like community engagement, especially a community that I'm also a member of. So, thank you very much. I will remind you, we do have a public engagement session scheduled for November 18th for this plan. Ultimately, we're gonna have kind of a real fleshed out implementation matrix. So I would encourage everybody, tell your friends and family that are residents or not, to come and participate and give your input. I can assure you that you're heard. Multiple support programs are heard. We could do stakeholder engagement sessions with the Town of Victor Parks and Rec. Everything you said, they said the same thing. They're built out, there's not enough fields, they want to do it, there's no space, they understand the need, everybody wants a field, so. The purpose of this plan is to really put together, you know, over the next 10 years. How can we create these facilities, how can we meet everybody's need, both current and anticipated, so I appreciate you guys coming out. And having and starting this dialogue.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. We
Yes,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Feel free to stick around, I mean, it's a public meeting, so you're more than welcome. Yeah.
You guys live
I would definitely ask Victor that property they have, you know, they're talking about for.
Fundraise.
Yeah, because
So,
they're not gonna be using the grass.
yeah, the
You know?
very preliminary thought for Brace, and it's very similar to our parcel here. There are no plans, there are just discussions.
Yeah.
It's, like you said, a highway garage, they need a place for their equipment, but also that Victor Farmington Joint Rec Center that has been identified as an option.
Yeah.
And with that would come fields and the whole traffic rerouting and thing. But again, all preliminary, nothing set in stone.
I just think it's a great location for both
Right.
towns.
Yeah, and well, and that's their thought as well. And, you know, we had conversations during our stakeholder engagement, but again, I mean, everything is so preliminary. There's no concrete plans, there's no feasibility study, there's no master plan associated with any of it. So I mean, there's a lot of steps that need to go before anything even becomes a reality, but the conversations are occurring,
Yeah.
which is always step
And for this plan, sorry, one would be like implementation of ballpark.
oh god.
You mean like finalizing the plan or
No, like
things happening
realize
in the plan?
If I'm being perfectly honest, the number one recommendation, if we're like building out, how does this work? The recommendation of this plan is to create a feasibility study for that. And then based on that feasibility study, the results of that, who the heck knows, it would be identified by costs associated with what you want to do. And then it would be the creation of a master plan to actually spec it all out. And then secure funding, I mean. Be years, plural. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's just the reality of the process and to get something funded like that.
Mhm.
I mean, this is, and admittedly, this is like very high in the sky, you know, like, oh, get everything you want right there,
Yeah.
money, no object sort of scenario. But also realistically identifying something that would meet needs, you know,
Right.
not just building it to build it.
How could we continue the conversation of, obviously not tonight, because I know that there's a budget or time, adding some clay and things to the current fields? Like, is that a discussion that we can continue at a later date?
You talk to that guy right there.
And that is something that is done yearly.
Yeah, we buy infield mix every year. It's distributed through all the fields. Add where we can.
And
But short term, yes, I think that's your best bet is dealing with town staff and Yeah, I mean, like I said, stuff is purchased, if we need to work on a maintenance schedule that's a little more conducive.
I think, has anybody talked to Mark Kane?
Mm-hmm. Like Smith.
Yeah.
He's on our committee as well.
He's the one who does the scheduling for all these fields.
And
He keeps track of that.
And that's instructive for our process too, because I mean, this plan goes beyond like, facilities planning and long-term, like complex planning. Maybe it gets down to the minutia of, how can we better maintain our fields? So hearing from a community group, there are these deficiencies that you're seeing because you're the boots on the ground. You're the ones that are using them every day. Your kids are the ones using them every day. So
Yeah.
like, this is what's missing. This is what would improve our experience. This is what would make it safer and better for our children. I mean, that's instructive for this process as well, because we will get as granular as to say, like, yeah, we need to do X, Y, and Z to better
Right.
maintain our softball and baseball facilities in the short term.
Yeah, we don't mind pitching in to help with, the clay. That's why I got the quote to see how much that would cost to add. I mean, building a dugout, like I could have people do that over a weekend, like. We don't mind helping and contributing to use the space.
Yeah, I think out here, just having the right equipment and having it stored somewhere that we can get to it, we could do a lot of the maintenance ourselves before and after we
Yeah.
use fields. And you should see at the campus on Saturday mornings, the number of baseball and softball people that are out there prepping fields. It's pretty impressive. You need drag, like fence drags that you could either have people by a tractor or by person. That's what I prefer. Rakes, you need chalk, you need like the speedy dry. You need a chalker. That's pretty much what you need. If you have additional clay stored on site and you've got low spots that people can just bring buckets and fill and spread, that's really nice. But what we find is you need a big space to put it all and have it organized and have everybody that uses it know what they're doing and how to do it. And they gotta stick to a maintenance schedule. So it should be, if it's games, you prep the fields before your games, final game, you prep it after. And then once or twice a week, they should just be touched up.
Is it just like the size of a closet or is it the size of a shed?
Yeah, I mean, ours is right behind the concession stand.
It's not big at all. It's half the size of
The
this
same,
table.
the same one that's been there for like
Yes.
10 years. 12
Those
years?
little
Oh.
sheds are horrible. it's a like.
The
kind
metal
of
ones
Tetris every
that-
time.
yeah,
You
that-
open them up and usually everything falls out.
And you get.
Something about 3 times as big
That's
is one of those, and something that locks, it's gotta be something that only certain people should be getting in and getting that stuff. But the other thing too is like we've got pitching machines, like with stuff like that you might have to store in those kind of sheds.
Victor schools, they build sheds, so they could even maybe donate one of the like technology.
Oh,
field.
yep.
If we just got like a 10x10 shed donated here.
I'm sure they do it down the boat. So you can prep it.
Yeah.
But a lot of that maintenance equipment we could provide if we just had, or we
A
could
place
even
to
provide
keep
the
it.
storage. and
Right, absolutely.
We're the ones that would probably be doing most of that maintenance. If it's off season, then maybe that would fall on the town to go out and just drag the fields every once in a while. But softball fields that just sit unused will go bad every time. They're put in, they're meant to be played on and continually mixed up.
All good information.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. for your
Appreciate it.
time.
Thank
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
We'll get out of here so you can see the Yankees, but.
Oh, yeah, it's up there.
Someone's supposed to file.
Thank you.
Yank it out. Do I need to eject something? Let's stop this.
It should be good.
Is it in the TV?
Nope, it's in the middle of the.
Oh, sorry.
Is the landfill gonna close?
Probably.
Probably.
Nice to see you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, Ron.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, good to see you.
you.
Probably.
Good to see you. Nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah, she's told me.
I'm gonna try to keep this chugging along.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, it was nice to meet you.
Right.
Yeah, thank you again.
there.
Goodbye.
I'm moving.
One item that's not on the agenda, but we did circulate via email was the existing conditions analysis and the what's it called? The oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. You printed the
Planning Foundation.
Yes, the planning foundations, holy smokes. Yeah, so I did not bring a copy. This is, you've seen this before. I mean, there were largely just minor tweaks and updates to that. I just asked that if you haven't done so already, just review it. We'd like to just kind of finalize those as sections of the plan and then just call that a day. Like I said, you've already seen these documents. There hasn't been significant updates to them. But if you want to kind of keep this moving along. The new thing that I do want to go over, and this is kind of long and we're a little bit pressed for time because I don't want to keep you here all night, is this implementation matrix. This is very draft, very preliminary. Not at all married to colors, not at all married to formatting, not at all married to really any of this. What I really wanted to talk about is just initial content and where this all came from. So I broke this out. We broke this out into 3 buckets, essentially. We have facilities, programming, and then what we're calling long-range planning, for lack of a better term. That's admittedly one of the ones I kind of struggled with as far as what that 3rd bucket should be called. That doesn't, and these are really initiatives, strategies, action items that don't fit perfectly into either facilities or programming, but may, obviously be related to one another. I did fill in some of these to some extent. You'll see in facilities right on page 2, basically action items 1 through 7 have come basically right out of our stakeholder engagement sessions or conversations at this committee. A lot of the other ones for facilities have basically been broken out by park. So starting with 10 and Pumpkinhook, each park had its own set of strategies and action items. What is filled in either came from some combination of discussions we've had with you lovely folks, discussions and recommendations we've gotten out of our stakeholder meetings, or it came directly from the feedback that we received from you guys based on the hands-on session that we did with you in September. Anything that has like a date, a 2017 to 2022, those were action items or recommendations from the last iteration of the plan that, based on our assessment, have not yet been completed, but may yet still be applicable. So we just kind of carry those over. We could strike them, update them, if you feel that some are not applicable. I mean, the whole purpose of this is to really have a conversation about it. I know you've only had this for maybe 72 hours and it is a lot to digest. So I think what we'll do going forward is kind of work with you guys to refine this is really the intention.
Well, yeah, because when reading, I mean, some of this I feel like has been done, I thought,
Okay.
so I'd like the ADA bathrooms, I thought, that we have some parts that I thought we did this.
Pumpkin Nuts in here,
Okay,
so
so,
we redid the bathroom.
They've been complete.
and like the sidewalk from Mertensia Park, I mean, we have it connected to the road now, so.
Okay.
Or unless that meant like a sidewalk down into the park.
Yeah, I don't-
was
I mean-
confused on that one.
I just know I had a list.
We had one down in Demerzensi.
Yeah, and then the road has one now because we rebuilt that road over the last 2 years, but. So, so some of this stuff has been updated. This just hasn't been updated, is what you're saying.
Right, correct.
Okay,
Yeah, so, and that's exactly, yeah. So we'll need to update that and refine it. And then, so, I mean, essentially from a facilities perspective, I mean, it really goes into the park. I mean, a lot of this just came from you guys and the feedback that we received from you. I mean, language needs to be updated, refined, massaged to read a little nicer, but really it's just getting like thoughts and ideas on paper so that we can see it and discuss. So I did want to just, I guess, starting with facilities, just because these are the new ones. One of the ones was the feasibility study for opportunities for a rec center. I know that's probably something that's worthwhile to remain. I don't think there's a lot of disagreement there. Same with a master plan or a feasibility study, which maybe is more appropriately the feasibility study for the parcel at the town hall. Obviously, ongoing is just identify any parcels to be converted into parkland. I think that's just an ongoing thing that town will continuously do, is to try to see to squeeze as much parkland and as much recreational space as we can. Clearly, I think based on a lot of the discussion we've had tonight, there's a need for fields of all shapes and sizes and types. We did put, explore opportunities to obtain access to Boughton Park for residents. We tried to be a little strategic in how we phrased that. Because it really is at this point, just, there is a potential opportunity there. What that opportunity is, I think, is yet to be sort of realized. So, I think part of the discussion that we'll have with you is to fill in kind of the gaps in terms of, you know, our priority, a planning partner, funding opportunities, create like a more iterative process for that recommendation. And then the rest of the facilities were those high level ones that that everybody really has identified, that was oh, that's another thing. A lot of this was reinforced also by the feedback from the survey that was completed in February as well. So when you see things like splash pad, dog park, pickleball courts meet demand, all of that was reinforced by the responses from that survey as well. And that's why they made the cut. If there's anything here that you're thinking of top of mind that may not be represented, that you think specifically deserves its own action item line, please let me know. Just shoot me an email or speak up right now.
Right. So like number one, conduct feasibility for this year. Does that mean it's, you have it, is it just listed as number one, or is it
Oh, no,
indicating a priority?
sorry. That's a very great question. None of this is in order of priority.
Okay.
It's just listed.
Okay,
So do not think one is number one. It is just
that's why I just want to make sure.
to identify it as a number. It's been assigned a number, but by no means correlates to priority. We will, there is a priority line item. What ultimately that will be is it a high priority, middle priority, is a low priority? We also could, and I've seen this before, add another column that not only talks about priority, but like feasibility. Like how difficult would it be to implement? Like, because it's all well and good, it's a high priority, but if it's also like the rec center is a great example of like the feasibility of it is also incredibly difficult.
You know, we've met with them twice, Mark and I have met with them twice, and it's just, I have a hard time reconciling, like, meeting with them and then like their actions, and they don't really go together, you know, like, I don't know. We've met with them before COVID and after COVID on this joint recreation. I just don't think it's worth putting a lot of our effort into.
Mhm.
I think the 50 acres is our main priority, but because we can encompass a lot of things in here that we want to do, all in here by ourselves,
I think you're right.
you know? So that's why I just want to make sure it wasn't number one on our list of priorities. It's like,
No, that's fine. I'm actually gonna write a note, either to renumber these or put a little disclaimer saying that number does not correlate to,
or designate it
Like,
low fees, you know?
or maybe I won't number, maybe I could letter them to A,
Yeah.
B, C, I don't know, but
You
bullet,
know,
yeah.
we literally met with them like 2 weeks
Right.
before COVID. And then like, 2 weeks later, they had all these great plans and this really big, expensive process, and literally like COVID happens and they couldn't they laid off all their people and could not operate anything.
Mhm.
They went from like here to here, where I felt like, we might have been here, but we stayed here. And I like that.
We didn't lay anybody off.
We didn't lay anybody off. We still had programs. We did summer rec, we did things. Yeah, we don't have this great, like, huge monster of a rec center expense and budget, and that's all sounds great until somebody has to pay for it, right? So.
Right. So, yeah, and then. So this facilities, again, like I said, I mean, it's got those high level town-wide ones, and then it really goes down into each park, which we will go through and refine. and take out what's already been accomplished. A lot of those were carryover from the previous plan or was directly from your guys' feedback. For programming, a lot of this came from survey feedback from you guys. I know, Julie, you'll probably see a lot of these because I know when you and I met early on in this process, that we had a lot of really positive discussion, I feel like, program wise, like the equipment rental program, I thought was a phenomenal idea. That was something that came just, I'll give Julie all the credit for that. But I thought that was a really clever, creative idea, that the town could potentially look into. Just adult sports leagues, pickleball, running clubs, bike clubs, anything that, you know, adults necessarily could want to do, you know, I have friends that live here that don't have children. So it's not all about the kids.
You know, we dedicate a lot of space to like fields and sports fields, and I mean, I have my kids play sports and do all that too, but I think one group that we don't ever talk about that I think we could really enhance are the scouts. You know,
Okay, I
and
like it.
that's, you know, so,
A lot of
That's-
people need Eagles projects.
and like, we have this land and some of it could be allocated for camping.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's funny, and I'm sure other people have this
Yeah.
experience, but I have this experience all the time, where I go to a park and I'm walking along, and then I come to this place and it's this. Either this pergola or this set of benches, really nice landscaping, and so many times there's a little plaque and it says Eagle Scout Project 1996, and you're like, wow, that's like, it happened to me. Like, I don't have enough fingers to count how many times that's occurred. So, I mean, it's a great point well taken. We could certainly add something to engage scouts, other groups similar to that. But really the purpose of programming too was to basically identify groups of individuals that may not be represented. And this is, you know, reinforced by feedback we received, but like creating a connection for seniors in the parks. That's been something that's been reinforced by multiple stakeholder meetings that we've had with other communities. Just they're experiencing the same issue. They have a senior population, but they have no real great way to make that connection between their facilities and even the nursing home or the facility or the populations where they live. So maybe having a program where there's like a boss or something that stops a nursing home every Thursday morning and picks them up and brings them to a different park, and some sort of programming around that. It's just things we were brainstorming about. And if all of this is objectionable, for the purpose of this conversation, right. But that was sort of the purpose of that. And then hosting programming, in addition to what the Parks and Rec department also does now, just, you know, game nights, movie nights, crafts, things like that, just regular programming that I think is kind of low hanging fruit, not really monetarily intensive. It's something that, you know, just again, I think I will also give credit to Julie. I've said this in past meetings, it creates opportunity for the community to participate in the Parks and Rec programming and also the facilities. So, we got pretty granular into like drone flying. I think in Penfield, there's an RC track that's right along the canal. Take it to Penfield, it might not be.
is there a canal in St. Paul?
No.
Or Parrington, sorry, it's Parrington. It's Parrington. I think there's an RC track right on this.
So there
Right,
is.
right next to the
I
highway.
don't know if it's good or not, or
It
what
was
it looks like.
used
but it is.
wildly for the first year.
And then it's dormant?
I've
Okay,
seen nothing there the last
okay.
many times.
So they just opened one of those in Hopewell, and it has like certain days and certain.
Right.
I actually still have a little tag on my board from a Farmington resident that used to go over there, and he wanted to land here
He
for
wanted
one
an
of them.
RC ranch.
I still got his name and number.
Okay. Well, so I put that there, and again, not all of this, just because it's here in this first draft, and quite literally, this is the first draft of this, doesn't mean it needs to make the cut. I was just kind of explaining my headspace, and then, the long range planning, a lot of these are filled out, it's from the previous plan. These carried over, I mean, they're largely still applicable. And it's just a one-to-one, but again, I would encourage you to read through these. If you don't believe any of these are still applicable to this plan, they can be struck, but they are in the existing version of the plan and they're very high level, just what I found to be like not at all objectionable goals and recommendations that will probably apply in perpetuity. So I left those in. The other one in the long range planning was just from a capacity standpoint, was just creating capacity for the Parks and Rec department to do all of these things and to grow. And be provided the support and initiative. I know there's not like a full-time Parks and Rec director, or there's been preliminary conversations, or I don't even know preliminary conversations. There's been identified as a potential need in the future. What that looks like, I don't know, but that's certainly a recommendation. And just improving and building upon the momentum that you currently have in engaging the community on social media, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. I don't know, more highlights on the town website, just promoting as programming increases, as facilities come online, just promoting that and advertising it to the community. And making sure that people are aware of it, because you can advertise it everywhere, and there's still gonna be somebody walking, well, I never heard about it. So.
Yep, happens all the time.
So, nobody told me, so let's try to avoid that as much as possible and say there's no possible way you haven't heard of this. That was very quick way to run through this. I do want to get your feedback on this, but I also want to respect your time this evening. A little bit more to get to. So I would encourage you to email me, give me a call, digest this, take it home, read through it, send me your thoughts. Next steps on this is really to refine it, fill it in completely. The intent is that we are going to bring you kind of a second draft of this in November. Totally filled in with priorities, planning partners, funding opportunities identified. We're going to try to do our homework and identify as best we can. I'm not going to promise we're going to have a funding opportunity identified for every single line item. Some of them might not necessarily even require a funding opportunity. It's just kind of like a high level recommendation. And we'll note it as such. But the intent is to fill this in, bring it to you in November, refine it with you guys, and then this is ultimately what we plan to trot out in it, at our public engagement session, in addition to just kind of getting more feedback from the public and kind of run through the session that you did in October, open it up to kind of the public and get their feedback. So this will, at the end of the day, the intent is that it will be generated from feedback from the survey, feedback from our stakeholder engagement session, feedback from what we've received from you, and feedback from the public engagement session on the 18th. So it's kind of a four-pronged approach that all of this is, and any recommendations that are carried over from the previous plan. So basically 5 sources of feedback, information, and engagement that are really going to be reflected in this. Because this is going to be the meat and potatoes of the plan that's ultimately going to guide it. This will also be attached with a narrative, kind of explain the genesis of all of this, and then some implementation strategies along with it. So those are to come. But that's where we're at as far as like starting the implementation of this plan. Does that make sense? Question. We like what we see, we don't like. I'm not sensitive. I'm not married to any of this, so.
Is this one of these things where we need, like, if we even think for a half second in the next 10 years, we might want to think about a shared facility that we should just include it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a shared rec facility should, if you're asking my opinion, yes, I think a shared rec facility should make the cut as a recommendation. And I think, and this actually came from Susan a little bit too. It's just a feasibility. I mean, she recommended just terming it as a feasibility study. Because really, I mean, a feasibility study is just asking the question, like, can we do this? Is it feasible?
Yeah, one of the things that I saw in your documents that you sent out is that when it talked about this for Victor, it sounded as though it was pretty much, they wanted no part of sharing anything with anybody, the way it was written.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I don't know whether that's valid or not. What kind of timeline do you want for the members of this committee to get their thoughts back to you?
That is a great question. I would say if you, being respectful of everybody's schedules, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks max would be awesome, and that would give us time. I mean, like I say, when's our next meeting? It's the day before election is the
Yeah.
4th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so two weeks would be great. Because that would give us another 2 weeks to kind of refine and fill in.
I always found if you say 3 weeks, they'll do it.
I know I'm too generous.
Maybe like the 14th.
A week. I mean, a week is great. 2 weeks is maybe
Maybe 2 weekends.
2 weeks. If you send me comments and feedback late, I'm still gonna read it and incorporate it, so don't worry.
I'm just
I mean, it could be
saying, Probably won't get to it till.
a rolling due
weekend.
date, but like, it would be great to get a bulk of feedback, yeah, within seven days.
I mean, what's the downside of not including all of this? Like, what, do we need to pare it down?
Oh, you absolutely don't. I mean, some of it could just be like refining language. Or dates. Yeah, well, that's obviously gonna get updated. Those were just carries over. And some of those from the previous plan, if it's been implemented, will be removed.
Well, like here, Beaver Creek, maintenance building with restrooms and drinking fountain.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's,
sure that's there.
I don't know why. That must have been on a list that we had and maybe.
Address the nuisance
Right.
I
issue with
think it was
geese.
because
geese
we were
is
gonna
new.
do the park in phases.
Oh, is that what it was? And then it didn't,
That was
The
mentioned.
bathrooms made it into the first phase.
right.
We only had one phase.
Heated bathrooms,
It
remember
wasn't
that?
face.
Somebody didn't want heated, I wanted heated.
But yes, but
Hey,
thank you,
Matt.
Ron. That was a good point. Let's shoot for a week. If you can get it to me or in that time frame, that's perfect. 14 days from now, I'm still gonna accept it. 30 days from now, still gonna read it.
Hey,
So,
Matt,
Yes.
just a quick question related to this. How do you want the committee to think about priorities? Is this like a 1 through 30 or, or is this like short-term, medium-term, long-term, or what, how are you thinking of priorities?
That's a great question. I was thinking, short, medium, long was really where my head was at. If we're okay with that, like I said, we can also add a column that kind of gives it like the feasibility of it. Like, is it low hanging fruit, something that's implementable? So I've also seen it like, you give it year range, say this is a 10-year plan. Is this a 1 to 3 year priority? Is this gonna occur in year 4 to 6, or is this gonna occur in year 7 to 10? Realistically, like, and a good example is this vacant parcel. We had the question tonight, well, how long do you think all of this would take? Well, when you lay out the steps in the process, we're talking years. I mean, realistically, that would be a year 4 to 6 as when it comes to implementation of that action item. So I can add a column that both attaches priority, low, medium, high priority, and then an implementation time frame, be it 1 to 3 years, 3 to 6 years, or 7 to 10 years.
They're the same.
But
Aren't they like the same?
Well, no, because one of them could be a high priority, but the implementation timeframe attached to it is so long that it's realistically not going to occur in the first, even though it's a high priority. Just what you have to do to make it feasible.
Okay.
It's not feasible in years 1 through 3.
Sure.
And unless that's getting too convoluted and confusing.
I guess I'm just wondering if you're thinking of, is there like a bucket of, or a number of projects or ideas that can go into that high priority? Like what if we end up with all of these being high priority? Do you know what I mean? Is there a way to?
I do. I mean, I think that's maybe part of our discussion at next meeting is like, if we think that, yeah, we have 60 recommendations and 45 of them are high priority, then we need to really have a conversation about, well, what's really high and what's more medium or even low.
Plus the reality of how realistic all
Yeah.
that is.
Yep. I mean,
Right.
because again, this is very grandiose, pie in the sky, money's no object recommendations, and these are strategies, objectives, goals that, I don't think anybody would object to, but I mean, they're not all practically implementable in the next 10 years. We know that.
Although Beaver Creek, I mean, when we started that, I mean, that seemed like yesterday.
Right,
You
I
know?
agree.
Didn't it?
I mean, it feels like 7 years right now or more, but
Feels like that took forever.
yeah, that's more than 7 years, you feel like?
Just going through the different grants.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so I do encourage you to look at this, provide feedback. I will refine this and then distribute another version. Gonna try to get a version, like an updated version of this to you guys before like the Friday before the meeting, so you have a little more time with what is to be discussed in November.
Do you ever use Smartsheet?
Sometimes. Yeah, do you like a real-time
Yeah,
editable
collaborate.
spreadsheet? Yeah, we could throw that on there. I mean, Google
just-
Docs does the same thing. If
Yeah.
everybody has.
It's a good collaboration tool and you can
know what?
highlight, you can do drop downs for the
That's a
items.
great idea. Tomorrow morning, first thing, I will pop into a spreadsheet. Does Google Docs work for everybody? Because that's just something that I have easy access to. I'll throw this
Yeah, I
in a
like
Google
that.
sheet and I'll circulate a link to everybody. Mark it up. Mark it up. And if that's an easier way to comment, that's a great suggestion.
Maybe we could, there might be too many of us, a way where we each have a column to put our comments.
Yeah, I was gonna say make a fourth column or.
Or even just for our comments,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it could get a little hectic. for
because
sure.
then we can clearly see each other's.
Well, I can throw, what I can do is do,
Is that really important?
I think when you comment, it just shows that it's you.
it
Does
does
it?
tag your
Okay.
name. Yeah, it would show
Yeah.
your
You
name.
need a
Okay.
column though, that says comments, because really there's
Yeah.
nothing there right now that says.
I was
under
just gonna say, I
comments.
can add a column that says for comments on each sheet. I can also add a sheet just for like overall comments and put everyone's name on. You can get a column or get a row or.
As long as that, like, we can identify whose comment is.
It should automatically
Yeah.
identify. If you're logged in, it should say like, Louis LaRue commented, blah, blah, blah.
Why is that important?
That, well, because we might have different
Okay,
viewpoints,
so you have different viewpoints.
but
Why should I say what Julie LaRue said is more important than what?
well, it's not about more important, it's that I might not remember that I made that comment unless my, for my own benefit. I'm not gonna, did I say that or did someone else say it?
It tends to intimidate people.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, Ron. I think if it's just within this group and it's really easy to do where, if you go in and write something, it'll just say who it is. And if there's a clarification, it's just easier to do. I don't know. Either way, it's fine with me, but it can be nice because then you can comment on other people's comments and say, yeah, I agree with this, or I don't understand what this comment means, etc.
It's also fairly easy for me then to take your comments and incorporate it, because they're all right there in a document. So if we're okay with that, I'll develop that tomorrow and turn it around to all of you.
I think it'll help us turn this around quicker.
I agree. That's a great suggestion.
And I think
Kind of
that's-
sad that I didn't think of it. So, are we okay with the implementation matrix right now? Don't have any more questions, because they're moving. I wanted to keep this to 90 minutes and here we are. I did mention the public engagement session already, so we kind of understand what the intent is of that session. It is pretty much locked in for November 18th. It's gonna be in this room, correct? And so we're gonna have stations and boards. It's gonna be a drop-in session. We're gonna create flyers and advertisements. We talked a little bit about with Susan on how best to advertise that. We're probably gonna laminate signs, maybe put it up against or along like the Auburn Trail, maybe put some signs in Town Hall. We'd encourage you to share it on neighborhood Facebook groups.
What's
One
the
time,
timeframe roughly, you think? 6
Uh,
or 8 or
what do
something?
we say? It's gonna be,
Do we know what we're doing or no?
I thought it was just 6:30 start, and when it was over, it was over.
6:30 to 8.
yeah, I think maybe 6:30 to like 9:30 or 6:30 to 9 or 6 to 9. 3 hours is a pretty good amount of time.
Biggest challenge I see is how do we incorporate the Zoom or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Into the exercise so that you don't have a room full of people and people waiting out in the hallway to get in.
If you have a moderator and he can enable people the ability to type, that can be.
You add a code to the actual physical notifications, and then we can do an email blast through the rec group.
Yep.
And through our Facebook, if you just send me the language, you can do that.
Yeah, because I know the town was always posting in all the neighborhood pages, they can post something.
So that's the intent. I mean, we're gonna develop a one pager, a description, time frame, and we'll circulate that all to you via email and then encourage you all to advertise it. I know the Auburn Meadows Facebook group is extremely active, so.
For the good and the bad.
And for the good and the bad, for sure.
Sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know how realistically somebody online is gonna learn anything.
Right.
It's gotta be an in-person.
Yeah, I mean, digital inclusion is challenging outside of a separate session exclusive to Zoom. Which,
So the reason for my asking that question is, should we even consider Zoom for that?
I mean, you can make it informative only. Like, just, if you go on Zoom, you would have no voice, we did that with the fire department.
Something to think about, Dan.
yeah, I can think about ways. I mean, it's essentially just ways to include feedback from individuals who may not be able to attend either in person or on the 18th, so. I can think about options.
They could leave messages.
That's what I was wondering, if you put something up there where they can just see the information, but then just type a message and it's saved.
I know on Zoom, you can post like graphics. Could you
Yeah.
just take photos and put those photos there?
Again, that's all they see,
And they
is the
see.
information, and then they can.
Like photos of the
Like a
boards.
presentation that they. can
Yeah,
see.
but they would need to be able to manually like advance it, you know what I mean? Which I don't know if they're able to do.
Yeah,
Unless it's on a loop.
Yeah, I guess.
You know.
Yeah, you could just put it on a loop, just have like 30 seconds of slide and it just rotates every 30 seconds.
Right.
Sometimes we just take all the boards and PDFs and put them on the website. And then as long as there's no presentation, right?
No, it's a drop-in session, so there's gonna be boards and you're just gonna go around and sticky dots, sticky notes, places to write comments. I mean, and again, this is a fairly dialed in community, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a good turnout, but. I mean, realistically, these sessions, in my experience, I mean, if you get 50 people, 75 people, you've done
I mean.
pretty well.
Seems very
That's.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said if you get 50 to 75 people, you've done very well, like.
I feel like the only time you get that many is when they all hate it.
Well, when they're angry.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, nobody turns out for
We
something.
got that for Beaver Creek.
Or,
I was gonna say that's so.
Yes, it's one of my level recommendations. Solar, Beaver Creek.
You'll fill the room.
Mountain.
yeah, we get Randy Shea to put something negative up there about our thing and
I
then
think that's called a beans picture.
we'll show
I don't know if it's necessary.
up.
But
Don't say his name, I'll be like Beetlejuice.
Uh-oh.
Hey, can I make an announcement real quick?
Yeah.
We have our truck or treat event coming up, October 26th. The more the merrier. We like to have a lot of cars in the parking lot handing out candy, so anybody in this group wants to participate, who isn't already participating. Let me know.
Great.
Only 2 hours.
It goes from 11 to 1. We usually get there at 10:30 because they block the parking lot off
Yeah.
for the fire truck. Last year is the most people I've ever seen.
It's nice. weather.
We ran out of candy. And I sent my husband to go buy us all a bunch of candy. And it was insane, the amount of people and families and kids, so. Oh, and another question
Yes.
on this. do we have a plan for the 3rd of July parking if we do something like this?
No, so,
Okay.
so that's the last kind of agenda item that we have, and I'll really quickly talk about this, and that we've already discussed it a little bit, and I
Yeah.
already did my spiel full of disclaimers of how preliminary this is and how conceptual this is.
I like
Now-
it though. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, at first blush, we would turn the baseball fields probably to back in to one another, just because that's like a more appropriate layout, but this is what we should say, I should really give Eric the credit, because he absolutely did this, but, when we were discussing this, I think he was trying to make a good job of representing a lot of the feedback that we've received from a facilities perspective, kind of all in one complex, if you will. Both with like it's a passive recreational opportunity via nature trail, which is like just a loop for illustrative purposes, but it could be a lot more fun. Like a rain garden or a community garden. A dog park, like little dogs and small dogs. That's supposed to that's actually a coyote, but
We have those too.
close enough. 2 multi-use fields, 4 baseball fields, not married to that arrangement, whatever. This is just kind of illustrative of, this is what it could potentially be. Parking for the 4th of July fireworks or 3rd of July fireworks.
Is this what Syracuse came up with?
Yes, so this is pretty much like representative of a lot of their recommendations from the Syracuse University students study. Is where this came from. So we just wanted to mock it up just kind of as an illustrative representation. And then we'll go from there. I mean, again, like similar to the rec center, I think this plan will 100% make a recommendation for a feasibility study for this parcel of land.
You know, what I like about it is, we're not developing the whole thing. And, we talked about like a place for scouts, for camping, so we leave, but also leaves like potential future development. So, we can do one part and then we have this kind of wooded area with the trail. It's really nice, and maybe potentially, area for scouts to camp. And even like below 7, if we need to throw another parking lot in there, we could throw more parking in there. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So that's why we can't park there.
What?
It's a hill.
But anyway, the purpose of this was just an illustrative representation of what it could be, the Syracuse University students did come up with some recommendations for that parcel. This is just a visual representation of what their recommendations were. A lot of which is reinforced by public feedback. So, we're trying to kind of make this as catch-all as we could. Just as a concept, I think we shared it with Ron. I thought it was worth sharing with you all. So,
Yeah, I would encourage members of the committee to, if they have thoughts that they see here, get them back to you. After all, there's a lot there that we know we're going to have parking. We know we're gonna have to have bathrooms. We know we're gonna have to have other facilities that all of which it's more than just putting a ball field on a piece of paper. That's why I was wondering if any of this land here is possible to do some of what you just mentioned. Take a walk. Take a look at it.
yeah. There, it's town land. But that's all I have. So I'm gonna open it up to anybody who has any comments. We had a pretty open discussion tonight, a lot of conversation, so. All right, and other comments?
I have to leave, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I mean, we're winding down.
I have to get my daughter from work, so.
Slave driver.
A little.
Huh?
Deal with child labor.
Make sure
She'll
she gets
know
home
her-
to get her schoolwork done if she has any, so
There you go.
she's already done. She's like, how long do I have to wait here now? Oh, no.
Well, thank you for, making your daughter wait at our expense. I appreciate it. But yeah, so if there's no public comments, no other comments, Susan, would you like to make a motion to adjourn, I suppose?
Sure. I just wanted to say thanks. It was great. Lots of discussion tonight and great information, and thanks everybody for coming, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Well,
Next
we hope you feel better, and we're thankful for you not sharing whatever's causing you to not feel great.
Yeah, but I will be there next time, all things going well, and really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
We're gonna be down in the conference.
Oh, yes, thank you, Ron. Next month, it is the day before election day. We've been told that this room is going to be inaccessible. Because we don't want any accusations of election tampering. Certainly, so we are going to be squeezed in the conference room down around the corner. There are a lot of us. I think we're gonna be able to accommodate it. We're gonna make do. That's good guess. I think it's the first Monday, so I think it'll be November 4th.
Oh, they'll already start tearing up downstairs? Yeah, we'll start I'm gonna discuss that tomorrow.
We could hold off on that room until after that meeting.
Yeah, so,
Could meet, let's say, objectives.
I mean, do we need to figure out an alternative meeting location?
We don't have Zoom capabilities anyplace else.
I can always see if we can use the meeting room at the fire hall.
Oh, they would have Zoom capabilities.
That would be good.
I just have to ask because it's a meeting night,
Yeah, okay.
so.
I mean, Mertensia is also a polling place too, though. That's the thing. I don't think that,
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't allow it at the firehouse. Yes.
yeah,
The 4th,
It would be tight in that conference.
it would be tight. I know. So,
well, that's the chief.
all right. Well,
You know him? I would
I
hope
met him once or twice.
you have a little pull with him.
for now, we'll be in the conference room. But if that changes, I will let you all know where we are meeting, when we are meeting, where to show up. And we'll figure all that out. But it is a little complicated with election night. But it is important that we have that meeting because we have the public engagement session on the 18th, and I think a lot of discussion at that. Our next steering committee meeting is going to tee up that public information session, so.
Yeah, I mean, if push comes to shove, we may just have to have a meeting without Zoom. I mean, that's
Right.
Yeah, and we would just advertise it as such, be open and transparent about it.
Yes.
We could have a meeting that's all Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, alternatively, yeah, we could all just attend remotely. I just need to not be at my house.
I mean, could we fit in that room? That room's tight.
you can get 8 or 10 people easily around the table and some chairs behind it. I mean, as long as the fire marshal doesn't stick his head in the door, we'll be okay.
You won't stick around for this meeting. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, go to the conference room, it's just tight.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. We'll let you all know. We'll go from there,
Yeah.
but thank you for that.
That's right, we can do it highway. As long as you can set up Zoom down there.
You can be creative about that. So yeah, I could probably.
And we just need a laptop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I could run that off my laptop. We'll figure it out.
There,
Well, it's,
there are options.
Before the.
Yeah. So we have options and we'll figure out the best one and let everybody know. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I think we're all
Thanks,
set. Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
So you want everybody's comments by October 18th.
October 18th, yes, ideally.
so you're right back here at 7 o'clock.
Less than 12 hours.
7 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
You guys
That's-
got going on?
That's our next meeting.
We talked public works and then,
7 AM.
yep, and then 9 o'clock, we had town operations committee.
Glad you had this.
Oh,